The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert. Clear all channels.
This is an exclusive.
How you like that?
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leazar.
Hello and welcome to the Wrestling to the Max WWE Hell in a Cell 2017 review show. And once again, you're hearing us sans Gary. He came home from the cruise really late, pretty much like during the last match. And, well, we would have had to wait like another 2 hours or so before Gary even finished the show. So, thankfully, he just said, all right, let's just do it without me, and we'll be back tomorrow like normal. So, sadly, once again, you got to be without him. But at least here is Mr. Paul Leazar.
Yay, I'm here.
And hey, you know, we like to have three people around if we can. Joining us first time in a while, Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Hey.
So, I vaguely remember some of the pre-show match. I think I had it on sort of in the background there while I was getting things ready. It was Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin taking on the Hype Bros. I thought the match was actually a little better than I thought it was going to be. Gable got to hit the big moonsault, and you got the pay dirt eventually from Shelton, and he and Gable win, and another loss down the run go the Hype Bros. What'd you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard match. Like you said, it was better than I expected. It was a good pre-show match. But especially with how the ending went, I was honestly surprised. I guess they're saving it for SmackDown this Tuesday, or unless they're going to drag it out even longer, but we all know it's coming. I was honestly surprised that we didn't see the turn of one or the other. I think it's going to be Ryder turning on Mojo Rawley. But I was honestly surprised that we didn't see it tonight, especially with how the ending went.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty good too. It's definitely above average outing, I think, for both teams. A lot of hard work from both. Gable and Benjamin, I think, are coming along really nicely as a tag team. And I mean, Brandon just said what the Hype Bros are going through right now. It's going to be a split sooner or later, just sort of waiting on when they're going to pull that trigger. And if they don't, then this might turn out to be a bit of a story of them maybe coming from behind and somehow winning the tag titles.
Yeah, there's only really two ways this can go, right? It's either they split or both guys turn and they just decide to be a heel team. Like, a more hardcore version of a heel team.
I don't think we'll see that, just especially considering what happened tonight with the seeming dissension and them not being on the same page at the end of that match.
Oh, you're right.
Good.
He's right. That's probably the thing that's going to happen more likely than not. I'm saying there could be a chance that both guys just get pissed at the world and just want to take it out on other people.
Yeah, I wouldn't discount them not splitting just because there are so few tag teams around on SmackDown. They don't really seem intent on maybe making one that's going to challenge for the titles anytime soon. But
But, I mean, we've seen that before with other teams. You know, the tag team division has been very weak for a while now on both Raw and SmackDown, yet they broke up Enzo and Cass, they broke up American Alpha. Granted, you know, Chad Gable is now in another tag team, but, you know, it's not like they really care about the depth of the tag division.
I would agree with you up to a point, because if you break up the Hype Bros, you have 4 teams, and they're doing jack and shit with the Ascension.
Yeah.
They usually like
think about it. Once they broke up Enzo and Cass, right now on Raw, you really only have, now with the Shield, you even then you still only have 2 face tag teams on Raw.
Mm-hmm. I think even just historically, WWE, and any time they've had the tag teams really either focused on or not focused on, they've always at least had 4 teams. Sometimes 3, sometimes 5, but it's usually always 4. I would not be surprised if they just tease this out until the Hype Bros either finally turn the corner together and stay face, or as Sean is saying, they decide to say, F it, we're going to beat up everybody, we don't care anymore, obviously what we're doing isn't working, and go heel. Either way, I'm fine if they break them up or keep them together. It's kind of interesting to see this in the background when, as we said, the tag team division is usually kind of flat, and you could really say there's maybe 4 stories going on around this division on SmackDown right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you know, with the Fandango and Breeze doing the Fashion Files and the Ascension sort of being involved with that, you're even less at that point. So it seems like they're more intent on, and for a good reason, because as we'll see later on tonight, that thing is over. So why not keep doing it? People obviously are not they're more into that than them wrestling. So the point is that
I think they were into them wrestling when they thought they actually had a shot at the titles, but now that they kind of got pushed back down, it's like this is a better way to keep them relevant.
Well, you know, we're talking a lot about tag teams. We might as well get into what is, you know, unless you really thought that the drawn-outness of the final Hell in a Cell match was better. This is your match of the night, and they decided to open the show with it. And why not? This has been the best booked thing on SmackDown. Perhaps you could say the best booked thing in the entire company. The New Day and the Usos going at it inside a Hell in a Cell for the SmackDown tag titles. And boy, did they ever go at it in this match. My lord. They used cowbell. You had guys tied up onto the ring posts. Like, you know, we're about to watch them be burned at the stake, it almost looked like. You know, you get Jimmy Uso or Jey Uso get pinned into the corner with about like 6 different kendo sticks and get hit with those. Eventually, the Usos wind up winning, but these 2 teams tore into each other. You could feel the tension, the emotion, the story. These 2 hated each other, and you really got that throughout this match. Whew. Borderline 5 stars. I mean, this was amazing. One of the best tag matches you'll probably see all year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to disagree with you on the best match of the night, but I'll talk about that later. A very solid Hell in a Cell match. This was a more creative, you know, they knew they couldn't use the cell to its fullest, so they used what they could. And they were very creative with it, you know, some very innovative spots. And some fun spots as well. But the one thing I'm curious about, which I didn't exactly like, and we'll have to see where they go with this, but, you know, a Hell in a Cell match normally, I mean, this is a very old school line of thinking, but, it should hold true that Hell in a Cell should be one of those match types that is a be-all, end-all, feud ender type of match, and the New Day's going to have to get their rematch clause. And not to mention with the rumors spreading of, them wanting to make the New Day, the all-time greatest tag team in history, they've got a bit of a problem with that if they're going to keep on having them trade the titles back and forth with the Usos. Heads up, WWE, the Usos are ahead of the New Day in title reigns. So you're going to have to put the titles back on the New Day and then move them to another team in order to allow them to get to that 9.
I mean, that's obviously just going to take time, I think. For now, though, talking about this match, hands down, maybe one of the best matches WWE has put on all year. Just absolutely incredible action bell to bell. I think they told a great story. I think you got a real taste of what both teams were about inside the atmosphere, and they used the cell and all the stipulations, I think, very, very well. And not to mention the added drama of them basically tying Xavier to the corner and making Kofi watch as they just absolutely brutalized him. For all that to come around with Xavier just to not give up and not want to lose until eventually it just became too much, and that's all she wrote.
I mean, I know they didn't. I know they didn't want to use the one thing I will say about that spot. I know they didn't want to use any outside spots during this match or anything, but I would have liked to have seen Kofi with a little more desperation reaction, kind of like a la Paul Heyman with Brock Lesnar, or I'm trying to think of other outside members who have been outside of the cage, or like Stephanie with Triple H, trying to like claw his way into the cage and like maybe trying to get to the door or something, instead of just kind of standing there and just without really being able to do anything.
I think it does more from a storytelling perspective that he didn't do anything. He watched one of his best friends get murdered in front of him and he couldn't do anything. So either this makes the New Day switch in their next title next title challenge, or maybe it causes some dissension or whatever. But I think it's a really nice story element just to have Kofi sit there and watch and not participate. I mean, the example you just used, they were all heels too. And you want to see those people get involved so they can get their ass kicked too. Everybody wants to see Kofi succeed. Okay. Everyone wants to see the New Day succeed, right?
Yes.
It's just sort of how it is, right? These guys can wrestle forever, though. I don't care what match. They could wrestle out in a parking lot in front of 12 people. I'm going to be one of those 12 people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, them in a parking lot would be amazing, like, if they did all that stuff with the cell, imagine with just having the limitless things of having a parking lot full of stuff.
But see, that's what I'm talking about with this moving forward is that, they had the Las Vegas street fight. They had this Hell in a Cell match. Where do you go from here going into Survivor Series? It's going to feel like it's going to fall flat if you just go back to them having a regular tag match.
Well, see, Survivor Series, you can actually just take a break and probably do a cross-brand.
That's true.
Raw and SmackDown tag team champions go against the 2 contender tag teams or something like that.
That's right. That's true. Or do like what they did last year and do the Raw versus SmackDown tag team match.
Yeah, that too. So it gives them a little of a break so they don't have to think about it again until December, unless Starrcade winds up being on the network. So, which right now...
What is the December SmackDown?
Do we even know?
Clash of the Champions.
Okay, yeah. So the titles would have to be defended at that point. I mean, even then, they could decide to bring more teams into it just to sort of lay that in. They've got a lot of SmackDowns. They could do something else on SmackDown too. So
that's true. We'll probably do like a triple threat with the new American Alpha or whatever they're calling themselves now.
Well, I mean, with the video game coming out in about a week and a half, if you want to promote the new, like, you can walk around backstage and all that stuff in the career mode, you could do some kind of parking lot brawl or backstage brawl or whatever with them.
That's
You know, some
Mhm.
nice self promotion there for your game there, WWE. Not bad thoughts, but anyway, I don't know if they need it. They have a really good commercial that also works as well. So we go from something exciting to, well, it's Randy Orton and Rusev. So you know, this feud has sort of just been there, and this match was sort of just there as well. It was fine. Rusev loses again. What do you know? And I don't know what this is going to mean. Absolutely anything.
the one thing that I was surprised about with this match, especially considering what they were doing with the build up to it, is I was surprised that Aiden English wasn't involved in any way. I was expecting him at least to be at ringside with Rusev.
That would have been interesting. I like the pairing. I like their work on SmackDown together, and we talk about them needing tag teams. Maybe you pair them up because neither of them seem to be doing anything right now, and it's going to be hard to try to push Rusev into anything after taking this loss to Randy. If, as Sean was saying, if it doesn't mean anything, then whatever. But for what it was, I thought this was well worked. It's not like the action was super exciting or anything, but it was fine for what it was, and I can't believe I just said that about a Randy Orton match right now, because he just looked like it was another day at the office for him.
Well, I mean, that's what these matches just feel like, is that they're really just filler matches. So
Randy Orton's 2017 is another day at the office.
Yeah. He has hair now, so I guess that means
does.
that he really doesn't care when he doesn't even take the time to shave his head.
Yeah.
He's going back to his old 2003 look.
And who knows? Maybe the wife just wanted to have hair for once or something. But anyway, we can move on from that to something a bit more exciting. It was decided on the pre-show that Ty Dillinger would be added to the U.S. title match to make it a triple threat: AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, and Ty Dillinger. And I think I mentioned when we did the preview, Paul, that there could be that chance that Corbin pulls one over on AJ and, well, now Ty, that, hey, you keep saying I can't win by cheap means. Well, look at me, I just won by cheap means. We both wound up going with AJ, but hey, Baron Corbin wins. He's your new U.S. champion. AJ on Talking Smack already says he wants his rematch. And I thought this was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and mainly because of Ty Dillinger and AJ more than Baron Corbin, but I thought the story worked.
Yeah, I mean, the story definitely works. It moves the story along with Corbin and AJ, because AJ feels like, hey, you didn't really win cleanly. I did all the work. And Corbin still gets his title, which I'm glad that he's starting to get pushed forward and starting to get rebuilt after the absolute burial that we saw in August. So, slowly but surely they're starting to rebuild him back up to where he was. Hopefully Ty Dillinger stays in the picture, but this is a good storyline, a good 3-man storyline that has worked for a couple of months now. I mean, honestly, between this and the whole KO Shane thing, the U.S. title has been the main title on SmackDown for almost 6 months now.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too whenever they were playing the Kevin Owens video package. Like, wow, this U.S. title's really been the belt to watch over what they've been doing with Jinder. Shocker, I know, but still.
I mean, that's been the way with both mid-card titles for different reasons. Different but similar reasons on both Raw and SmackDown.
Right. I thought this was good. This is one of those times where I didn't necessarily mind the standard triple threat formula because it works in the story, right? Everybody sort of has a different beef with each other, so wanting to take out the other guy to get to the one you have a problem with is what makes sense here. That being said, I think the parts where Baron's in control, he's just boring. He's just super boring to watch in these long heats, and him pinning Ty and sort of using the means that he did to do it all makes sense for the feud. AJ wants to prove him wrong, and Baron's, for his part, on Talking Smack, maybe cut one of the best things I've ever at least heard him cut promo-wise, talking about his win, how he plans on rubbing it in everybody's face, and how his way actually won him something finally, and he's ready to just shove that down everybody's throat. And I dig that. If he could just make that energy happen in a match, I might actually enjoy this guy.
I may be in the minority amongst fans, but I personally like Corbin's. Not so much. I mean, his wrestling style is what it is, but you don't always have to be, the great technical wrestler to be a solid competitor in the ring. I mean, he plays his role well, and I think he can be a very solid upper mid to upper card guy moving forward on SmackDown, or if he decides to if he ends up getting traded to Raw or whatnot. I think he can be a solid guy in WWE.
I don't need you to be the greatest technical wrestler alive or a man who can do 10,000 flips. I love Braun Strowman. That guy doesn't know a handlock from a wristwatch, He just goes out there and pummels the shit out of you, but he has energy.
I think one of the things that really got Braun over back when he first started getting over big was that kip up that he had against in that match against Big Show, because everyone loves the athleticism.
Right. You can be an athlete still. I'm just saying he has energy. Strowman has a lot of energy in everything he does. Corbin is very flat and boring and moving from pace to pace in the ring. That's all he's doing. And it's very, on prolonged heats like he had in this match, it really drags the match down. It's boring. It takes the crowd out of it, if you ask me. I don't need you to do all the flips or, 10,000 holds. Just bring some energy to the ring. I'll be fine with you.
But I think that's why they put this as a triple threat, is to basically hide Corbin and to allow AJ and Ty to do their thing, and then Corbin can come in and get the job done. I mean, it's basically the same as Enzo in the Cruiserweight division.
The thing is, if you're saying you're going to be a top guy, you need to be able to walk solo by yourself without having two guys trying to cover for you.
No, I agree with that. So but I think he still has time if he's willing to get better. I think he's certainly able to do it.
Just a little bit of energy is all I'm asking. Make it look like you give a shit out there.
Right?
I don't know that he cares. I think he knows where he is, and it's I give him credit because I've said this many times. So one of the things that I think Talking Smack did great for all these people is Baron Corbin was one of the guys that really benefited from it, and he was able to cut the promo he did today because he got to learn what that's like and to feed off Daniel Bryan and whoever else was his opponent at the time. I mean, he even made confrontation with gender interesting on that show. So, I mean,
him and Miz probably had the most memorable moments of Talking Smack during its run.
Yeah, I just Baron Corbin, obviously the promo man, he likes that. He's interested. He figured that out. I think he sort of just knows he can skate by on the wrestling because he's liked, or as long as he doesn't piss off the wrong person when he lost the Money in the Bank, that's the story that actually happened. But, and for that reason, he still gets where's your briefcase chance on the crowd and all that, which is nice. But, yeah, it's just, look, this match was much more about if you cared about what happened in the ring, Ty and AJ was there for you. Baron was there to continue the story, and he did that, and Now we'll see if he gets to rub it in everybody's face or not.
Right.
So, moving on, we move to another title match, the women's title match between Natalya and Charlotte. Natalya and Charlotte really just, for me, because their roles are reversed. And I don't know that it's the roles are reversed or that it's still hard for me to believe in Natty the way she is. She's the heel thing doesn't work for me because they've positioned her so much as like the old lady that has cats for like such a long time, or the woman that burps or what has stupid gimmicks, and so it's like it's hard to take you seriously. And now you're stealing your uncle's catchphrases, and I mean, not that Charlotte doesn't steal her dad's, but it's just like at least with Charlotte there's that connection there. Dad's been there, we've seen all that. It's obvious that they're trying to do that, and we respect her because she's gone out and proven on her own. Like, hey, you know what? I'm one of the best out here. Not that Natty's not, but I feel like she's sort of regressed in the wrestling since they've kind of docked her down. And so when you have this match with Charlotte, where I still feel like when you take away the whole her dad was sick and near death thing, that's the only reason you're sort of cheering for her at all. Like, she's still not this person that you're really running to rally behind, right?
Well, to be fair, they were starting to turn her face when she came to SmackDown.
I know, but I still don't want to root for Charlotte.
Right.
Like, she is that, like, supreme athlete, like Roman Reigns, that, like, you're in awe of, but you're not, like, sitting there kind of like, yeah, Charlotte, you're the best. Like, I want to root for you. It's more like, all right, I want to hate you. And she did that so well in NXT. She did that so well on Raw. That's what made the feud with Sasha work, is that you just disliked her. And then, I don't know. So this whole thing sort of, it worked. And then I could kind of just feel this DQ coming. Like, it's so this natty run for that to happen that way. I guess I'm glad, because maybe that means that Charlotte will win the title in the rightful place on that Starrcade show. But I don't know, Paul. This felt weird and just there sometimes.
I thought the work was good. I didn't have a problem with any of that, but I think you are right in that they have their wires crossed here. I like Natty more as a face. I like Charlotte more as a heel. And they kind of have that flip-flop. And it's not that Natty's a bad heel. She's just not a good one. She's very middling. And I feel like that's the same with Charlotte, too. And granted, she hadn't had to play face that much, just because I feel like she's such a natural at the other side. But I don't know. This worked to move it over. I didn't think Natty was going to lose the title here just because it was going to be too soon. And you have the Starrcade thing you're building up for, and it makes more sense to do the switch there. And I think as far as moving the feud along, this worked out pretty well there. As far as keeping an interest, if you're if you're not really into the characters, it's understandable. But I thought the ring work was still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean the match itself. I mean the whole we'll see where if they do anything with it, moving forward. But playing with her knee potentially being injured, that was a good storyteller, and she sold it really well throughout that match. I was even, unsure. I was like, oh, damn, is she injured? But the only thing that I can think of, yes, I get the whole Starrcade thing, but yes, we've seen it with AJ this year at MSG, but if you're not going to show it as a network special, I don't think they would have that big of a title change at a just random live event. But the other thing that I was thinking about when they had this finish was are they doing this so that Charlotte can move on in case they do the four horsewomen versus four horsewomen match at Survivor Series?
I would think if you're going to do that, you still want Charlotte to look as impressive as possible.
Well, I agree with that, but I think they're trying to keep all four of them away from the title just so that, the titles aren't vacant for, not vacant, but, not being defended for, another couple of months.
I mean, it would only have to, the next show after TLC is Survivor Series, so it would only be maybe a month, and that's, basically par for the course for WWE at this point.
That's true.
I think for me, the biggest sort of takeaway from this, at least moving forward, is that if it's, I'm used to growing up watching WWE. They used to do house show title changes pretty, not often, but it did happen, right? You just had to sort of get used to the fact that it did. I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't make a WWE Network special, which I still think they'd be silly not to do at this point. I still wager the title change would happen.
Yeah, the only thing I think, and I understand the whole concept. Go ahead, John.
I was saying they tape everything, so we'll see it. They may show it on the network as a full match later. They have that option as well. So
the only reason why I'm not sure about that is that we never got that with the AJ title switch. We kind of just got small clips and and stills from it. So I especially in this day and age where like Paul said, they are taping everything. So why not, especially if you're gonna have a big show like that, why not do like what you were doing back in 2015 and have a couple of house shows become network specials, just to kind of, even if not many people are watching it, it still brings some more eyes to the network and gives the fans something else to watch if, they're bored on a Saturday or something,
They did have less shows back then than they do now.
True.
So
true.
We do have to consider that they may feel like there is show fatigue, even though they could just do this and just mean it for the hardcore. But that's the thing, like once you have title changes or big matches, like you're gonna have cage matches and all that stuff, you're gonna get people's attention that have the network that might be casuals, and they might feel like, oh, here's another thing I gotta watch. And so it's, it all becomes taxing and whatever. I know with the network, you don't have to all watch it in one sitting. You can decide to watch like an hour here and an hour there before the next SmackDown comes
watch
on.
it when you, or watch it when you have free time. Like I still need to catch up on like 3 episodes of NXT right now because of our other podcast.
Yeah, that happens, but they have their reasons where they decide not to do it, or it could just be that they don't want to give Starrcade the time of day. We know Vince is very. We know Vince is.
But that's the thing, which I think that's why Cody is a little annoyed at it, is because I feel like that's exactly what they're doing. Is they're just using it as a cheap way to maybe steal some people from going to WrestleCade and to draw maybe a few more people to a house show, but for all intents and purposes, it's just going to be another house show, and they're just further burying WCW.
Yeah, fair enough on that as well. But yeah, SmackDown will probably just have them continue to see the same deal here. That when Natty and Charlotte started a feud, I felt like it was going to go a little while. So because they were the main cogs in the whole, the team that doesn't like Charlotte, Natty was kind of the leader of that, so it makes sense for it to go for a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
The Fashion Files have a short sort of thing that kind of lets you know what their next deal is their next spoof is going to be for Tuesday. They let you know that they are going back to basics with the intro and that they have closed the current case. You get a delivery from a Connor that's dressed in, looks like NWO Hogan look with the mustache and everything. I don't know what is that just supposed to be a shot at Hogan or something, but I almost felt like we're missing a brother there. That's about it. And yeah, they tell them that they have a delivery. You get a connection to 2B, which is on the box to be, and you find out that it's the Ascension with a lame joke of "We want to be your friends," and it's so because the way they have it on the poster is so dumb, and they're just like, "No, we don't want to be your friends. What the heck is this?" And the whole time they're thinking that this is some like extra clue, and what if they sent the wrong guy to jail and all this. It's great. The best thing is the Cesaro the Tooth Fairy 3 with his picture.
I didn't even see that.
And then I saw people already make memes of him in the Tooth Fairy with the Tooth Fairy background and all that, as he was going to be in the movie for real. It's just great. So then they do the big old, one of the iconic scenes from Pulp Fiction where they open the case and it glows and you're left wondering what's inside, and then they tell you that there's going to be a Pulp Fiction Fashion Files on Tuesday. So basically sort of a lead into Tuesday. The thing that I think stuck out the most, Paul, is that, man, the crowd went nuts when they showed up on screen.
They sure did. And I laughed pretty hard at the disguise joke of how they didn't even recognize the Ascension because they were so well disguised. I'm really looking forward to seeing them back on TV, though, see where they're going to go with this. It's really turned into a surprise hit that I don't even think really anybody was sort of expecting, and I love Pulp Fiction, so it'll be interesting. I can't wait to see Dango. I hope Dango is the one dressed up like Samuel L. Jackson. I really do.
I'm sure he probably will. Yeah, I mean, this has been an interesting run with them. I'm just curious to see, how long this is going to go. It kind of feels like, while they didn't do it nearly as long and it wasn't as funny or as, well done as this, it kind of feels like Elias Sampson just drifting around backstage at Raw for weeks on end, and you're like, okay, when is he gonna finally, actually do something? It's the same with this, where, at first, in the beginning, it was, supposed to be this mystery, and they were gonna find out who was attacking them, and you were expecting it to turn into a match and maybe a call-up or something, and now it's kind of just like, okay, what are they doing next, without really having an end game.
I think they've kind of had to start meandering it a bit because they realized that Survivor Series is probably a better time to call up somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You can easily introduce another team, have a mystery partner, a mystery team be part of one of the Survivor Series matches, and have that one be the one that involves Breezango, and that kind of let things happen, or you don't even have to involve them at all. It just gives them another show where, okay, War Games is happening, now we can let Sanity go, or now we can let Authors of Pain go, and they can go up to the main roster, and they'll be the team that attacked Breezango. But I think they've also understood that these spoofs are working, and people like them. They get traction on social media. The Twin Peaks ones, because they were happening while that series was still on, was getting a lot of traction. That I saw, like, people that were fans, that some of the people involved in the show were paying attention to that and everything. So
Hmm.
if they can keep getting, things off the spoofs and all that, then it's going to work while they're trying to figure out what the next deal in that story is. But yeah, I mean, it's working. People like it, and why not keep doing it? I still think that they deserve a show on the network at some point, but obviously once you make it more than 5 minutes long, it starts costing money. So
Yeah.
I was trying to delay getting into this WWE title match between Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura because although this might have been Jinder's best match, maybe, since he's been champion, because I thought Nakamura worked a little harder than usual. I mean, again, the guy doesn't really have a reason to be motivated when he's wrestling Jinder Mahal, but yeah, it's just the finish was sort of expected. You knew that the Stings were going to get involved. Just didn't think that you're just going to flat out beat Nakamura clean like that. That's just, does it make you feel like this thing might be over now and you're moving Jinder on to somebody else?
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
we'll see. Maybe, hopefully, maybe Shinsuke moves on to the U.S. title or something and gets that. Maybe move AJ back up and have him feud with Jinder until finally this whole India thing is over and Jinder can finally drop the title to AJ or someone who can actually do something with it. But yeah, the problem with this right now is exactly what I mentioned. No one who knows anything cares at all about this because everyone knows that he's holding it at least until the end of December. And so, both main titles on WWE are complete jokes right now because that the title holders are just going to keep on holding them for different reasons.
The only thing I learned tonight is that Jinder knows how to wrestle one match, and he will do that over and over again until we're all in the grave. Because this seems like it has no end on it. You would think with maybe some falling attendance figures for SmackDown, they would want to try to freshen it up, maybe move the title. They do not. They want to keep it on Jinder for whatever reason, and I would assume that it's either AJ or I think it was you who mentioned it in our chat, Sean, that maybe Bobby might be in line for that shot next. But I don't.
Oh God,
I don't care
Bobby
anymore.
Roode and Jinder.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Think about that.
Let me tell you how those matches are gonna go.
Yeah.
If you
and
thought,
plus, I just really do not want to see them bury two of their rising stars just for this. And plus I just don't know if Bobby really has enough leverage right now. I mean, he just had his debut match tonight, so.
Who else you got? Who else do you have on the face
you
side right now?
Put in AJ or, I don't know, you could figure something out, but, this whole thing, I mean, like I said, it's not just SmackDown, it's Raw too. The concept of burying an entire roster for one person for different reasons is just, it's not a good sign for WWE moving forward.
it's so weird to me that we have seen them when stuff doesn't work, they move things around to make sure it does, right? But with this, they seem so dead set on Jinder has to be champion, no matter what.
Well, because they're doing it for one sole reason that isn't gonna, it's gonna do more harm than good in the long run. But they're so dead set on keeping him champion until they get to India.
Seems so just short-sighted, but
Well, it's Vince. What do you expect?
They also may not just want him to dump the title on what is still essentially a B pay-per-view, even though it has the big, sell stipulation around it. It's still a B pay-per-view, so maybe they're waiting until Survivor Series.
yeah, very true. It's still just, I don't know. They have done everything they can to sort of make Nakamura feel like he is just a guy on the roster now. And it's sad to see, because he is a guy that could be a talent if you put they really haven't matched him with the right people either. He's had 3 straight feuds with look, Dolph's a good wrestler, but he's obviously just in I don't give a crap mode. And when Dolph's like that, I mean, it doesn't help anyone. Baron Corbin helps Baron Corbin, that's about it. And then, Jinder. So, and probably until he has that match with AJ is when you'll finally get to see, the Nakamura that we saw in NXT. Or I don't know if he'll have another feud with Bobby Roode or something, but it's just, I almost hope it's AJ, because if it winds up being Bobby Roode, let me tell you how those matches are going to go.
I just don't even know, the rumor, granted, this is a good bit beyond, beyond the December date for India, but I just don't know how at this point we're going to get to that rumored Nakamura versus AJ feud for Mania.
Well, the Royal Rumble is great for those kind of things.
It's true.
That's true.
Well, we can move on from this WWE title match and get on to Bobby Roode and Dolph. And once again, the best part of this was that Dolph Ziggler lived up to what he was saying, and he cut off his own entrance to not come out to an entrance at all, because he's trying to prove that, he's the best guy in the ring. And this was, this was a match. And that's it for me. This was just kind of blah.
It was a better match than I was expecting, because I was thinking that this was basically going to be a squash. But, so it was a better match than I was expecting. But, yeah, it was just, your standard wrestling match. Nothing really special to look at. It looks like this is going to continue because Ziggler attacked Bobby Roode from behind, so we'll see where they go from here. But this is another, you've got this and Rusev versus Randy Orton, where it's kind of like it's just filler feuds, and, there's nothing, it's like, oh, these guys don't have anything going on right now, so let's just toss them in a feud against each other.
Obviously the point here is to make sure Bobby Roode looks good. And to that end, obviously he wins. It's not necessarily clean. He had the post-match stuff, so I don't even know if they accomplished that.
I don't think they really did, because he had to, not only was it a roll-up, but he also had to use the tights in order to win.
Well, so he was getting Dolph back after he did it to him beforehand, right? Monkey see, monkey do, and Bobby Roode, when it comes to heel tactics, he's got the rule book memorized there.
Well, but the issue right now is that they're trying, or at least I think they're trying to make him as a face on SmackDown right now.
I think for now, yes. I wouldn't be super surprised if sometime in the early part of next year we get a turn or something like that. But I like what they're doing for Dolph right now. I just don't think he cares anymore, because it's not like he knows what he's going to be. He's here to either take falls or to be a guy to step up in the mid card when he needs him, when they need him to. And I don't think that's necessarily what he wants to be doing right now. So he's just sort of there, doing whatever, and Maybe as much as I have never wanted to admit it, maybe it's too much damage to ever come back from now.
Maybe they were cheering for him certain parts of the match, and then they started booing him. So
yeah,
it's that thing with Ziggler. Like, there's always those people who are gonna cheer him, I guess, because he's been there so long, and I guess they still have that respect from before. But it's just it's crazy to me how up and down they've been with Ziggler. When this whole brand extension started, it looked like they were going to turn a new leaf for him. He was going to start being the main event, and then quickly he went right back to being Dolph Ziggler. So I've liked this whole thing with the entrances and all that, but I don't know, just kind of.
I mean, it also didn't help. It also didn't help him that they had that whole thing with Miz, with we're going to have you win the title and then lose it right back the next night, It
certainly hurts his credibility, but I would argue that his work with The Miz last year was some of the best of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was good work, but just, it didn't do anything for him. If anything, it just pushed him further back.
Credibility-wise, I will give you that. Like, the fans probably just don't... you can't get attached to a guy who can't hold on to a belt or seemingly sustain, right? So, I guess that's where WWE's sort of at with him, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, certainly a guy that just... He's not caring, and don't know if he has plans to move on to somewhere else after whenever this ends for him, or... But hey, he was like this before, and then he wound up re-signing. So that will be something to address when we get there. The final match is as we expected: Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens in a Hell in a Cell Falls Count Anywhere stipulation. Worked to perfection here as they went everywhere around and even on top of the cage to have a big fight on top of the cage, Russian leg sweep on top of the cage, the pop-up powerbomb on top of the cage. They come down, and then you have the finishing sequences with doing the Ambrose and Rollins, we're gonna knock you off the side of the cage thing, so as it's not so crazy from the top, and then Shane tries to do his big dive that he did at WrestleMania. It backfired on him because Sami Zayn showed up and moved Kevin Owens at the last second, and then was able to put Kevin Owens' arm over Shane to get the pin, and Kevin Owens wins. What a shock. The man looked like he was never going to help Kevin Owens again. And here he is, the everlasting friend.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Baron.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this match lived up to all of the hype and more. You remember 2 years ago, Sean, me coming into this pay-per-view, like this show after this pay-per-view, absolutely furious because, it just didn't live up to the hype. And this year, it most certainly did. It helps, obviously, that it is Shane. Obviously, when you've got when you've got a Mick Foley, Shane McMahon, or Jeff Hardy match, it's going to live up to the hype. But, even without that, this, I think, was the longest time that they've ever fought on top of the cell. At least that I can remember. I would put this at number 3 in my all-time Hell in a Cell match list. And that's saying something, especially considering it's the PG era. This was a great match and a great swerve, especially for, fans who don't, read the rumors and whatnot. Those of us who did kind of, saw the writing on the wall and everything. And they did tease it a little bit this past week on SmackDown with Sami Zayn going up to Shane and being like, you have to watch out for KO and yada yada yada, and Shane kind of just shrugging him off and saying, "Let me do me and you do you" and whatnot. So there was some writing on the wall. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of explanation they give, and like what have Sammy come out and explain why he's suddenly now on KO's side after all of the battles that they've had and all of that. So it's gonna take some work to make this more believable, but as long as they do the explanation properly, this could be another great team of KO. I don't know if it'll be quite as good as Jericho, but I'm hoping to hear some Ring of Honor-esque best friends chants in the crowd when they're out there. And I mean, this definitely sets up some interesting feuds and all of that. Maybe even get a best friends tag team going, and that's a way that you can break up the Hype Bros without losing a tag team. Maybe moving Sammy and KO into the tag team division for a while, at least to give them something to do, because it seems like the U.S. title is moving in a different direction. The World Heavyweight title, like we were talking about, you don't really know who can go after Jinder, and you don't really want to bury any other people while you're still waiting for that India tour to be over with. So, maybe this is a way to give them something to do. It was a great match. It was my match of the night, definitely. And a very fun finish. Like I said, as long as we get a good explanation for why, it was a great way to end it.
I think this match succeeded in a lot of different ways. As far as spectacle goes, I think it certainly fit the bill on that. Easy for me to say. As far as giving into nostalgia for this being the anniversary of the Hell in a Cell match, I think it did that too with the Kevin Owens halfway fall and Shane diving off the top and all the fighting on top of the cell. Like, really just trying to capture all the moments from past Hell in the Cell matches that really made this match famous. I think it did that very well. And from a storytelling perspective, absolutely succeeded there. Kevin Owens is one of the best, I think, at telling a story inside the ring, with not only his work, but his mannerisms and obviously him berating Shane's kids at the beginning of the match. I just loved. Well, you should look up to me. I'm the best. It's so great. I think this was a little long in the tooth, if you ask me. I don't know if Shane should really be going 39 minutes. There were some parts of this I found a little boring, honestly, but there are a lot of other great spots in this match. Shane still pulling off a shooting star press is insanely impressive to me. Yeah.
But the thing about it, like, the thing about it is that the only parts that you could even, in theory, say were a little more drawn out were the stuff that was on top of the cell. Mm-hmm. And that stuff, it took you out of it because you were so on the edge of your seat. Yes, it was prolonged, but you didn't know what was going to happen next. That's the great thing about Hell in a Cell, especially when you're on top of the cell. You don't know what's going to happen next. You're anticipating, okay, what are they going to do next? So even if it's prolonged, it works.
I would agree and disagree with you at the same time, because while it's true that you may not know where it's going, eventually WWE has conditioned you to know that somebody is going to fall off the damn thing if they go up there. That's just how it's going to work. Huh?
That's the great thing about it. You know someone's going to fall off at some point. You just don't know when. And you're sitting there waiting and anticipating it.
You still know what's going to happen, though. It's not a, oh my God, when is it going to happen? True. You know it's going to happen, though. Like, somebody goes up there, they're going to fall. It's just sort of the way it is. I think the Sammy reveal at the end was perfect. I feel like you could work Sammy very easily into the situation too, because he's been underutilized, and you could bring up all, him having to fight Mike Kanellis and Baron Corbin and seemingly getting nowhere, and blaming that on Shane and Daniel Bryan for holding him back essentially from what he thinks he should be. And understanding that, hey, my friend Kevin Owens over here, yeah, we've had all these problems, but he makes a great point, and I'm willing to mend that fence if you are, so we can go out here and succeed together, and then you can have a whole bunch of other stuff happen on the way there. All of that, I think it did really well. I kind of wish it was maybe 5-6 minutes shorter. I think it would have been much better.
Yeah, I kind of agree as well that it sort of felt like they were just really taking a while, especially on top of the cell. Don't know if they meant for there to be the crowd to be more crazy or something like that, or I don't think that there was. I don't know why people were saying this on Twitter. I don't think there was ever any thought of them going through the cell. That's even more dangerous to going on to the outside with the announce table, because they can add padding to that announce table. You can't really do anything.
Well, the only way they could have done it is what they did back in 2000 with the floor, with the mat caving in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. It would have been, I think, too contrived. It felt like they reinforced that so that there would be no way that they fall through instead. But I agree. I think Shane, for the age that he's at, for again, not really being an athlete, not being a wrestler, still going out there and doing what he can, doing that shooting star for us. And I mean, his strikes and kicks are so awful, but still doing the coast to coast, all that stuff. I mean, that's still pretty amazing to me. I think Kevin Owens is great, as always. Like you guys said, the talking there is always that, and I think he's transplanted that into other people, learning how to talk during your match, which is important. It's just there was something about it to me that I didn't feel the same emotion and the same. I felt more, obviously, like it's more about like, well, I don't want Shane to die, or I want to make sure Kevin Owens is okay. I felt that at the end, right, when Sami Zayn shows up, but throughout the match, I didn't feel the same way I felt like with the Usos and New Day, where, oh man, Xavier's just getting beat up there, or some of these things they're doing. Like we didn't even mention the 2 dives by both Big E and Jimmy into the cage to basically kill the other guy. I mean, they know they're going to get hurt and they're doing it. So, yeah, you feel that talking from Kevin Owens and all that, and Shane McMahon being Daredevil and making him go up on the cage, but this didn't feel anywhere near as good as the first Hell in a Cell of the night.
I agree.
I mean, maybe this is just my old school bias, but it always feels kind of flat. Obviously, it's kind of counterintuitive to the whole concept of the match itself, but whenever a match stays within the cell, it kind of falls flat to me. Because you're, thinking, okay, when are they going to go up? The other thing that helped this match was the fact that both of them, the other thing that was an interesting spot, and I really hope someone who's kind of a more daredevil-y type of character uses this against KO at some point, was the whole thing with when KO was up on top by himself, and he was like, should I do it, and like he was about to, and then Shane got up and started climbing up. Him being hesitant could be something that you could definitely put into a storyline down the road.
Yeah, surely you could. I think the main thing, obviously, coming out of this is what you guys talked about, Sami Zayn has this come into play, and we'll see how they address this on Tuesday. Let's just hope people actually want to watch it, which that's the thing, is it doesn't matter if they do these kind of sort of cliffhanger endings. If people still don't really tune in to SmackDown to see it, then it kind of fails on that part. But hopefully they do, because
I mean, especially for fans of NXT and of the Indies, this is a moment that people have been waiting for. And I think people will definitely tune in, especially to hear the reasoning. And even fans who weren't fans of NXT, who aren't fans of the Indies, even more so for them to an extent, they're going to be like, why is Sammy suddenly helping, his arch rival? So it works in a number of ways. So I think it will be something that people will tune in for, definitely.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think a lot of us, I know on our preview for Hell in a Cell, we were talking about maybe Triple H interfering or something like that on Shane's behalf, but they came out of seemingly left field with this. I think this isn't still, I mean, it's just as interesting this way, and seeing, I guess, how this plays out, because I would argue since the Vince segment with Kevin Owens, this has definitely been the most interesting story on WWE television, and hopefully that does transfer into a pop in the ratings coming into Tuesday.
I think throughout this whole thing, even from when, Shane, took the ref jersey from Baron Corbin, I think this has definitely been the most interesting and, the most captivating storyline on SmackDown over the last month and a half.
I would agree. It's one of the better ones, for sure. So the last thing we have left to do here is to give this show a rating before we get out of here. So out of 10, Brandon, what do you give this one?
I'm going to give it... I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It would have been a lot lower if it wasn't for the main event. Some of the decisions in terms of who won certain matches, while yes, I understand them to an extent, some of them just, like we talked about, Shinsuke not winning the title and having to continue with Jinder, Natalya retaining, Usos getting the title back. I feel like this should have been the end to that feud and let New Day move on to someone else. That's what's holding this pay-per-view back from being a 9 or 10. But a lot of great spots. One of the most memorable Hell in a Cell pay-per-views that we've had ever, if not for a while, potentially even ever.
Well,
I'm going to go 7 on this one. The tag match was spectacular. I think the main event certainly held up its end of the bargain, just because I think you knew what you were going to get out of that. Everything else, I mean, there's a couple of little bad spots on this show where it's just sort of real boring or flat, but everything else I thought was either really entertaining or had a lot of great wrestling up and down the card as well. And it certainly holds your attention for the 3 hours, and that's certainly not something WWE can claim every week. So hats off to them for putting on a good show here.
That's about where I was going to go, was a 7. It's bookended very well with the great match, excellent match that I think everybody needs to go out of the way to watch to open the show. The second Hell in a Cell is a spectacle that I think people wanted it to be. I don't think it's a great match on itself, but again, it delivered on the showy stuff that you wanted, and you kind of got all of the old Attitude Era spot stuff in there. And then I think when you tie everything else together in the middle, with the U.S. title match, I think being the standout of the the wrestling there in the undercard. With it all pushed together, I think you can give it an extra 1 and or 1.5 or so, and I think that averages out to a 7 for me. It just there was a lot of matches there was a few matches like Rusev, Randy Orton, Rude, and Ziggler where you're kind of like, well, these don't feel like they're really going anywhere. They mean anything. The Jinder beating Nakamura like that just felt really weird, and I guess they're moving him on, but it's just like way to make that guy feel ordinary when he shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, you get the surprise of Baron Corbin winning, which some people probably wasn't, but that's nice. And Natty and Charlotte will keep their thing going. So 7's good pay-per-view. Brandon liked it a lot more than Paul and I did, which is good. Nice to have that differing opinion there. And will be interesting to hear what Gary has to say on the Monday night show, which we will be doing in not 24 hours from now. We will be reviewing that New Japan King of Pro Wrestling that's about to air in a few hours, and we'll also be doing the RHTV we normally do, and whatever else is going on in the news in wrestling. So we'll be in touch with you not too long from now. Hope you enjoyed what you heard here on the review. If you did, hit a subscribe button to get everything we do Wrestling to the Max. We have the WWE review shows throughout the week, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, 205 Live, and then, of course, the 2 episodic shows that we do that have the other reviews in them from the other companies, along with news, main topics, and all the other stuff. And like I said, Gary will be back doing this thing so that I don't have to be so bad at it, and we can progress further on things. Thank you, 401mania, for hosting our show, and also make sure you visit W2Net.com. We had a preview up for Hell in a Cell. We have one up for the New Japan as well, and more stuff. So until the next time we're around, see you later, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.